Hello, welcome back to our discussion on stress and stress management. In my last week's lecture, I shared with you some of the common causes of stress, or what are believed to be some of the common causes of stress. I also shared with you some of the negative impact that stress has on our health. In today's lecture, I will focus on defining stress. What exactly is stress? Now, there are many definitions of stress. That's the textbook definition of stress, the way stress is defined in your textbook. I will share that with you, of course. But I will also provide an alternative definition, which I give a lot of importance to. And I think by the end of this lecture, you will realize why I give that much of importance to that alternative definition of stress. Because that definition is also provides the key to managing stress well. So, if you understand stress well, I think it's going to be much more easy for you to manage stress. So, it is important, and I would say rather critical, that we have an accurate understanding of stress. Anyway, with that introduction, let's move on to some of the common definitions of stress. And we will start with a definition not from psychology but from physics. So, in physics, stress is defined as the force acting on a material per unit area. So, so that's my flask. If I'm pressing it, so that is the amount of force that is applied per unit area. That is what stress is in physics. Now, it could be stress in form of pulling something down or pushing something. Either way, force could be in form of pull or push, but the amount of force that is being applied per unit area. Okay, so we need to define the area, and that is what is called stress. So if I'm pressing on the table, I am putting pressure, but compared to the entire table, it is not as much of a pressure. But if I take a sharp pointed object and put that pressure, put that force, the amount of force per unit area is much higher there. So it will, in fact, it can even damage the book or the paper where I'm putting that pressure, right? Or putting that force. So that's how stress is defined in physics. And the deformation that occurs because of that force, that is called strain. So the effect of that force on the material, that is called strain. And these are important things because some of the definitions that we will go through, not today, but later on, you will realize there are some parallels between the way we define stress in physics and the way we define stress in psychology, in context of human stress. Okay, so well, with that introduction, let's go to the definition that we see in your textbook. So the stress response is a natural physical response that accelerates the body's defenses when threatened. So there are a lot of important points that are being highlighted here. It's a physical response. So what do we mean by physical response? So when we are stressed, let's say there's a snake, our our blood pressure will go up. You know, our hair may start standing up. We may start breathing much more fast. Shallow breathing may happen. So the stress response is happening at a physical level. Of course, there's a psychological level at which the response happens. But even before we talk about the psychological level response, it happens also at a physical level. So, And uh, this physical response is happening in in response to some threat. Okay, so the snake can potentially kill you if it's a venomous snake, or if it is a constrictor. It can, even a constrictor can kill you if you are relatively of a smaller size body and the snake is big enough, it can kill you, right? So it's a threat. It's a real physical threat to our survival. So what happens is that we develop a natural response. So another emphasis here is on is on the word natural. So that's how nature has created us, that we feel threatened and our body starts responding in a certain way that we then can either fight with that threat or run away from that threat. The fight or flight response. We will discuss that later, fight or flight response, in my actually next lecture. But that's typically how stress is understood. So it's a natural physical, we can probably also include psychological response that accelerates the body's defenses when threatened. So there is a threat. In this case, there's a snake here and it can potentially kill you. So your body naturally has a response to it, okay, which helps in your defense, which helps in your survival. So that's how stress is defined. Now, there is one major problem with this definition or with this understanding of what stress is. And the part that I have most objection with is the word natural. In a way, yes, it is true that these are natural responses. That's how nature has built the system in our body so that we respond accordingly. But as I had shared with you in my some of those images of people playing with snakes, or their entire body lighting up with flames, but we are still seeing that they are not responding in this stressful manner. So this natural often has the implication of it being automatic. Because it is natural, that's the automatic response that we will always have. But that need not always be the case, right? And so the nature part cannot be denied. Even animals, going, if we are focusing on the snakes here, animals, monkeys are extremely scared of snakes. Even a mongoose that can kill a snake would be scared of snake too, because even the snake can kill the mongoose if there is enough injection of venom, or for that matter, if it's a constrictor, then maybe it can constrict the mongoose and can kill the mongoose too, right? So there is that natural defense is always there. There is no denial about it. But we also see that the same snake that can kill a little toddler infant here, the infant isn't feeling stressed. Now, why is the infant not feeling stressed? In fact, the infant is playing with the snake. This constrictor can easily kill this infant. So if the response is natural or always natural, then the snake should be creating stress in the kid, and the kid should be running away from the snake. But instead, what we see here, because of the kid's ignorance, because the kid does not see it as a threat, the kid is actually playing with the snake, right? Sometimes you may know that it is a threat, that the snake can kill you, but then you train yourself to handle this danger, this venomous snake well, so that then you are not as stressed as you would be if you were not trained in handling snakes, right? So here we see that an expert is training a little kid how to handle snakes with those long curved sticks. Probably it has a name, I don't know. But then that stick keeps the face of the snake away from you, so you have greater control over this potential threat, and consequently then you don't feel as threatened. You then are facing the threat and you are dealing with the threat. Or if you have grown up with snakes, as many families are, especially in the tribal region, or people in India, for example, there are certain communities that handle snakes. Okay, they have just born with snakes around them. They know how to handle snakes really well. So in this example, the kid, the person, may still be experiencing some bit of stress within, but there may be somebody else who literally see that as a play object, and this is not because of this kid who is ignorant of the danger. This kid, in contrast, is a bigger kid, so he knows the danger, but she is so much at ease with this potential danger that doesn't even believe it to be a danger, doesn't even see it as a threat, and consequently the kid is completely at ease, not at all feeling stressed. It's possible that they may have defanged the snake too here, so due to which the kid is completely at ease. That's another possibility. But my point is, it the the stress response that we discussed before uh, is not always natural, not always automatic. That's my point. Going back to some of those statistics that I shared with you in the last class, when people are asked about what causes stress in them, which we technically call our stressors, what did they report? They said that money or the lack thereof caused stress within themselves. The amount of work that they have to do at that job, workplaces, the poor economy, the relationship issues, family responsibilities, health problems in the family, all these factors were the cause of their stress. So that's the layman view of stress. But if that were the case, if these were the real causes of stress, then the more money problems we have, the more stressed we will be. The more work we have to do, the more stressed we will be. The poorer the economy, the more stressed we will be. In other words, the greater amount of problems we have in our lives, the more stressed we will be. Now, while there is truth to it, it is a very helpless perspective, because I may not have any control over the economy, for instance. I may have some control at my workplace, but again, I may not have a lot of control at my workplace. I do not choose my boss. I do not I may not have any influence on the company's policies. And some of those policies may be working against me. I do not have control over, say, the personality traits of my parents. I may be able to choose the right kind of friends, but I may have no choice when it comes to the kind of colleagues with whom I work. So, if we have these problems, though, that it gives the impression that we will automatically be highly stressed in our lives. So that is the problem with this view of stress, that the greater the problems, the more the stress. And there is a major flaw there. Now, let me give an example to illustrate what I'm saying. I just mentioned, so the greater the challenges, the greater the demands, the greater the stress. When life is too challenging, we will describe it as stressful. But that's the problem. So if we have more challenges, so if you have few challenges, you will not be stressed. If you have a lot of challenges, let's say on a 1 to 10 point scale, you have a lot of challenges, you will be highly stressed. That would be the traditional view of stress. But is that always the case? Let's take the example of somebody taking a 5th grade math test. Imagine yourself, you being in your 5th grade right now. You are this kid in 5th grade, and you have to pass the math exam there in order to move to the middle school. If you fail, then you will have to repeat your 5th grade, right? And let's assume that you were not very good at maths when you were a kid. Now, will you be stressed before the math exam, the final math exam? The answer would be yes, right? So, is it then fair to say that the math exam is causing you to feel stressed? That's what most people would say, right? The 5th grade math exam is causing stress in you. That would be the common understanding of what stress is. But now, let's think about you being in 10th grade. Okay? And I am giving you the same 5th grade math test. Now will you be stressed? You will not be stressed. Why? Because, hey, the 5th grade math exam is too easy for you. You are a 10th grade student, right? So, previously when we said that the 5th grade math exam is causing stress in me, that was incorrect then. Because if the 5th grade math exam caused stress, then it would always cause stress in me. But it isn't when I am in 10th grade or 7th grade. So the same 5th grade math exam is not causing stress in me anymore. So the same logic could be applied to our money problems, for instance. So the lack of money right now may be causing me to feel stressed. But the same lack of money in somebody else may not cause that stress. Or for that matter, even within me, the same lack of money at a later point of time may not cause me as much stress. So what's happening here? How can we understand the dynamics of stress? Well, so first thing, that we have to reject this idea that external things cause us to feel stressed. In this case, it was the 5th grade exam. That it's the 5th grade exam that is causing me stress. That it is the horrible boss that is causing me stress. But that's the common understanding that we have. It's a natural stress response. That's how we talk about it. That it's the bad company policies that is causing me stress. So this notion has to be rejected. So instead, now I want to think about this stress from a slightly different perspective. So the previous perspective was, if you have a lot of problems, you will be more stressed. Okay? But that is only thinking about stress from that one dimension, the demands that are placed on you or the problems that you have in your life. Okay? We are thinking about stress only from that unidimension. But we need to take another dimension into account, which is our capacity. What is our current capacity to deal with those demands that we have, those problems that we have in our lives? So, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, okay, 1 meaning the problem is too easy, and 10 meaning it's a very difficult problem. that you have in your life. Let's say on that scale, your current problem is, or the demand that is being placed on you is at 7. But your capacity to deal with that problem is at 4 level. So again, capacity on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 meaning you have immense capacity, 1 meaning you have low capacity. So in this condition, will you be stressed? Yes, because the problem is at 7 level, whereas your capacity to deal with that challenge is at 4 level. So there is a mismatch here, which will then lead you to feel stressed. Anytime the demands exceed your capacity, you will be feeling stressed. So that is the natural part of feeling stressed. Okay, so I am giving you problems that are at 7th grade level, but your capacity is at 4th grade level, and I say that unless you pass these problems, then hey, you won't be able to graduate. Then obviously you will stressed. You will be feeling stressed. But that is not always the case. The same 7th grade problem, or whatever the problem is, it need not be math exam, it could be anything. The same money problem, the lack of money, may not cause me to feel stressed if I know that, hey, I have the capacity. Right now I don't have money, but it won't cause me to feel stressed if I have a greater capacity to earn money. Right now I don't have money, but I'm not worried because, hey, I know I can easily earn the money. I have that capacity. Then will it cause me as much stress? It won't. So, in fact, if our capacity is way higher than the problems in our life, we may actually start feeling bored. We may start feeling unchallenged. If that's where we always function, the problem is too easy. So it's like, for the rest of your life, I ask you to be only working on 5th grade math problems. That will be a very boring job, because it is the demand that this 5th grade math problems are placing on you is not challenging enough. Your capacity is way higher. So the same 5th grade problem, math problem, that caused you a lot of stress is actually now causing you to feel bored. So this is, I think, how we need to understand stress. And actually, when there is a proper match between the demands that are placed on you and your capacity, that's when you experience what is called the flow state. You are completely in a zone. And this idea was talked a lot by Mihai, Csikszentmihalyi. He's a researcher who has done a lot of work in this area. So that's the time when you are in a state of flow. You are completely in the zone. Okay. So going back to like handling snakes, for example, if you will be alert because you know there is the snake can potentially harm you, but your capacity matches with the snake's capacity, so you will be very alert, and you will be so involved handling the snake that you will not actually be feeling stressed, nor will you be bored or unchallenged, but you will be in a state of flow. You will literally lose track of time because the challenge is matching your capacity to deal with that challenge, the difficulty, the problem. So this is how then I define stress. Stress is what you experience when there is a mismatch between the demands and the capacity. Mismatch in terms of the demands exceeding your capacity. And again, it is all about perceived capacity and perceived demands. Going back to that example that I showed you of the little kid, the infant playing with a python. The kid is not feeling stressed because the demand is actually there. The snake can actually kill the kid, but because of the kid's ignorance, the kid doesn't believe, the kid perceives the demand to be low. So on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe the kid perceives it really low, 1. So because of the kid's ignorance, the kid is actually not seeing it as a threat, and then the kid sees his capacity to be much higher. So the kid is actually playing with the snake. So it's all about perceived demands, perceived capacity. Perception could be off, but even if it is off, then you will not be feeling stressed, right? So your capacity to earn money may be actually low, but if you believe, for whatever, you may have a misplaced idea about your capacity to earn money. But if that's what you believe, that's what you truly believe, then you will not feel stressed when you don't have the money. Following me? So it's all about perceptions and the mismatch of demands and capacities. So this is how I would define stress. Stress is a psychophysical state that arises when there is a mismatch between challenges and capacities, specifically when the level of challenge is higher than your capacity to deal with that challenge or demand. Another way to say the same thing is stress is experienced when our capacity to deal with a given challenge is suboptimal. So the challenge is here, but your capacity is lower. So when it is suboptimal, then you feel stressed. And here I focus on the perception part. So stress is what you experience when the challenge in front of us is perceived to be above our capacity to handle it. So when demands exceed capacity in your perception, that's when you experience stress. So this is how I define stress. And you will realize then this is also the key to managing stress well. Going back to that diagram, if stress is what happens when demands exceed our capacity, then what is the approach that you should follow to manage stress? First is, don't blame the demands and problems for your stress. There will always be some form of demand or problems in your life. You are feeling stressed not because of the demands or problems, but rather because of your lower capacity. The capacity that you currently have to deal with those demands that you have in your life is lower. So the key thing then is to work on building your capacity. There are other implications as well, which I will talk as we move through the semester. But does this make sense? So you are feeling stressed not because of the problems in your life, not because of the demands that are being placed on you by your spouse, by your friend, by the economy, by the president, by whosoever, by your boss, but rather because your capacity, your current capacity to deal with those problems is, to deal with those demands is suboptimal. So focus on building those capacities. And if you do, then the same problems that were causing you to feel highly stressed before will not cause you to feel stressed anymore. So even if you don't learn anything else in the semester, if you internalize this idea, I think you will be a much greater person, much better person when it comes to handling stress. So with that, I think I will end my lecture today. Thank you.